One of the things at the Botanic Gardens that we do, or don't do, whichever way you look at, is we grow our plants without pesticides. We don't use insecticide, we don't use fungicide. That has proved to be very, very successful over a long period of time. Really 15 years, although officially the last miticide that went on was 2004, which is 12 years ago, but we were well underway to being pesticide free at that time. So that applies to fruiting plants as well. So if you are planting any deciduous trees, you should be getting them in, if possible, by the end of July. Now, this is an apple tree. So what I've got Lawrence to do is, he's just taking the grass off. Normally I'd just get my mower and I'd cut it a bit shorter, makes the job a bit easier. And what we want to do is end up with a circle around our tree once we've planted it, so that we've got no grass competing with the tree, because the most fertile soil is that top layer of topsoil, isn't it? And grass is very competitive, so you don't want grass taking up all the nutrition and so forth that should be available to your tree. Another advantage of having a circle around your tree like that, there's a couple, keeps mowers away, and mowers can damage the trunks of trees. The other thing, if you put bark mulch around a tree like this, or chip wood or whatever, that is great for getting a lot of microorganisms and other organisms into your soil. And the more organisms in your ecosystem, the healthier the ecosystem is. The true test of fertility is not the NPK, the nitrogen, it is the abundance of life in soil. And so the most important thing that we do to promote that abundance of life is getting woody material such as this on as mulch, and getting all those fungi, but it also protects the soil from heavy impact of rainfall, from other impacts, everything, earthworms, which are great indicators of soil health, etc., they all benefit as well. And that is the reason at Botanic Gardens here we can grow healthy plants without spraying, because there's such an abundance of life in the ecosystem. So here we go. We're going to chuck a little bit of compost into there, and that's just sort of adding a bit of good organic into the soil before we plant. And the other thing we're going to do is we're going to chuck some fertiliser. This is Pacific Biofert, so you can get different fertilisers. Basically the type of fertiliser that we prefer is any such as Blood and Bone or this Pacific Biofert, which effectively is in a form that organisms have to convert into the nutrients that the plants will utilise. Now you can get synthetic fertilisers, you're providing, sure, the nutrients that plants need, but you're not nourishing your soil. So that was growing summer in Nelson a week or two back. Now that doesn't look like a lot of root, but actually it's ample for our purposes. So what we're going to do is we're going to plant it so that it's level with the surrounding soil. So you never bury the trunk of the tree, in other words. So to support it, what we're going to do is we are going to put in a stake. And I like to put in the stake before I actually plant, because otherwise you can easily damage some of the leaves. You can prune it before you put it in. What I do is I chuck all the soil with the grass, I just put it back in upside down. That really slows up the regrowth. And so this is what is called a single leader pyramid, which is where you've got a trunk, you've got lateral branches coming off the side, and what you're trying to do is create spurs to fruit. So I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. In a garden centre or nursery, when I'm buying an apple tree, I'd be looking for something that's got the start of the framework that I want to develop. I like the way these branches are coming off at nice wide angles. They're not coming off at very narrow angles. It's already got these lateral branches that I want to carry the spurs. Let's do a single leader pyramid. So these are going to be my 4 that are going to be my framework. So I'm going to take off that. These are going to be my first 4 laterals, and the others are going to start developing next year. And I'm going to get rid of the rest of these. What I want to do is support the tree in a way that allows it to move but will stop it blowing over. As you saw, it's got very little root. So for that first year, I'm going to support it, but I'm going to allow it to move, and that helps strengthen the roots. In other words, the roots don't become dependent on the ties. you know, to a degree, they've got to support themselves. So put it around that main trunk, cross them over like that. It gives the tree enough movement, but it's not ever going to blow over. There's a fundamental principle with fruit trees. If the growth is horizontal, it will produce fruit. If it is vertical, it will produce new growth and leaves. So if you want plants to fruit, then pull the branches down so that they're horizontal, but always leave the growing tip so it's going up a little, so you've still got a little bit of vigor. I just get bits of number 8 wire and bend a little bit over on the top. Basically, all you got to do is push them into the ground, and then I'm going to tie this down. Now you can do that any way you like, and this just stops the knot tightening on the branch, and if you need to adjust it, it's very easy. So, no rocket science there, sorry. So all 4 of those are going to go down like that. What some people do is they get little bags of, say, sand and tie them to them and pull them down. I quite like this, and they will become quite firmly fixed in that position in 12 months. So I leave the stake in for 12 months, this I leave in for 12 months. And if it's still staying nicely in that position, then you can pull your next one down pretty much above this one. It doesn't have to be perfectly so, but this is one tier of branches. About 600 millimetres, a couple of feet above that, you want another tier coming out. Do you know what I mean? And ideally, the one that comes out here should be above this one. So you've actually got bays, and that's good for walking in so you can pick, but it's also good for air circulation. And that's going to happen anyhow, because if you're tying that one to this one, it's going to pull it over to be kind of, you know, directly above, or pretty close to that. Yeah, and then you just keep going up. And if you want a bud to break, a particular bud, and particularly if you've got growth and you see you've got 3 buds are broken, but you haven't got one where you want one to, say, come out this way, you can stimulate these buds to break and produce a new branch. You just cut above a bud, you make a little nick and then another little nick down, but you've just cut through the bark, and that will actually stimulate that bud to grow. To finish that, I would give it a water, and I would then put some, I wouldn't use flash expensive bark like this, but I'd use more what's over there, just those wood chips, because they're cheap. If you ring up your electrical company, especially if you live in the country, they'll have a supply. So that's how you do a single leader pyramid.